Welcome out. What a awesome spring morning, huh? Wow.
Wonderful.
Sunny day, moisture in the air still. Green is coming. So we're going to start this off with the song. This is the day. Please join in with us and rise if you get the feeling. And we're going to start it off. So here we go. Here we go.
This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day, a day to be seized, yeah. A day I can feel my spirit set free. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day all my dreams come true. Can feel the Spirit working its way through. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Woo!
Okay, thank you. Are you done, Ron? Good morning. Welcome to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I feel like I'm leaning over on this side over here. So welcome to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Clyde Goins, the assistant minister here. And we need we need people on this side, please. So I just want to welcome you here on this beautiful Sunday morning, and I hope you guys are getting outside and enjoying the beautiful weather. If you don't have anything going on this afternoon, the Tempe Art Festival is going on this weekend. I went there yesterday, and it's really incredible. Beautiful art, lots of art, so something to do outside, and it's beautiful. All right, and so we've got a lot of fun stuff happening. We've got the drumming circle that's going to be this Saturday. I also want to remind everybody that the spot on Thursday nights or Thursday there's a 1:30, and then there's also a 6 p.m. Evening not a class but a get together. So please come and join us in that spiritual practice. And then the other announcement is the Dress for Success, which is going to be March the 23rd, and Gloria wants to come up and say something. Come on up, Gloria. She's looking pretty successful.
Listen, every time I could come up here before you guys, it is such an honor, so I'm running. Listen, Dress for Success. Do you know anyone that is getting ready for a job, looking for a job, going for an interview? If so, Dress for Success is the event for them. If not, just be the change. The time is March 23rd. The time is 11 to 3. The date is March 23rd, excuse me. And the location is here. So pass the word. We're asking for donations. Just bring them to the thrift store and just tag them that for Dress for Success so we don't have to sort through a lot of stuff. we're looking to dress those that are going in the office or maybe just behind the counter at a local store. So we're accepting accessories. Make sure that they don't have any mending or anything. They're ready to be hung. And we thank you so much. Oh, volunteers. There is a sign up sheet out on the uh, in the foyer. Yes, please sign up. Please sign up. We need volunteers. And if you forget to sign up, just show up. We'll take you.
Thank you, Gloria. All right, so thank you, and the Project of Love is really on fire, so we are very much appreciative of Gloria leading that for us. So now let's say our vision statement together. We are a loving, joy-filled community, honoring the many paths to God as we learn and live the Science of Mind principles, and so it is. So just sit back, open up your hearts and minds for the Bradford's beautiful music and Reverend Karen's wonderful message. Thank you.
So just take a deep breath as we go within.
I will make a quiet place within my heart, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my mind, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know. I will make a quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place.
Be still and know that God is that infinite presence, that divine wisdom, that peace, power, and presence that is in every being, everything, every situation in life, in this universe. It is all God. That God that permeates our souls, that lives and breathes in everything. It is all one. And what I know of God, I know of myself, and each one of us in this room, and each one of us that are listening online, or those who cannot be with us today, that we are all one, that we are all part of that divine spirit that reaches from here and beyond. And I claim and affirm this for each one of us, that we are the peace and the power and the presence of God, that we are the divine expressions of all that is good. And with that knowing, I give many blessings to each one of us here and beyond. And for the Bradfords and their beautiful music, knowing that every note of harmony permeates our souls and uplifts us with that beauty. And with all of those who are in service today, that we are so gracious for their assistance. And for Reverend Karen, knowing that she speaks the word of God that just effortlessly flow through her on this day and every day. And for all those from other faith traditions, knowing that there are many paths to that one God, no matter where they are. And I'm so grateful for this day. I'm so grateful for all the blessings that we have. And I let my words go into the universe, the universal law, knowing that it is already done, it is so, and together we say, and so it is. My reading today is from Your Invisible Power by our founder, Ernest Holmes. And this is on the section called The Power That Is Within You. Excuse me. The power that is within you is the power of your word. This power is not so much a will as it is a willingness. That is, you will never have to will things to happen. You will merely have to know that they are happening. This power as law, which is within you, is neutral and impersonal. You are not to think of it as though it were God, for the law of mind within you is merely a mechanical force which you may use for definite purposes. Hence, it is no more God than electricity is God. It is the reaction of the law of cause and effect to your word. This law of cause and effect is merely a medium. It is an all-powerful medium and an all-perfect way. You have the power to use this medium in any way that you see fit. Therefore, you have thought that the law of your being was one of bondage. Now you're going to discover that it is freedom. Just as it was discovered that the law which causes a piece of iron to sink will cause an iron boat to float, so you will discover that the very law which has produced discord in your life can as easily produce harmony. So let us take that into contemplation for a moment. And so it is.
So we're doing this song for Nancy Noel, who has come back for a visit. We're so happy she's back home for a little while.
When I was a boy each week, Sunday we would go to church, pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word, consecrate the holy bread. Everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, Jesus made the water wine. I remember feeling sad, miracles don't happen still. Now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small. An even better magic trick is that there's anything at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, finding where there isn't one. When holy water's rare at best, barely wet my fingertips, and now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. Used to be a world half there, having second hand me down, walking with a reverend air, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Read a questioning child's face, say it's not a testament, that'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come, say it's not a sacrament, I'll tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. Maybe want to bow my head. I remember when church went out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now.
I love that one. Good request, Nancy. Thank you. And you know, it's just what I want to talk about today. It's that shift in consciousness where we begin to notice that everything is holy. I mean, we talk about it every Sunday, but I have this sort of energetic message that I plan to deliver this morning. And the title of the message is A Great Surge of Living Power. And when that surge of living power moves through us, that's when we see that everything is holy now. So thank you. Perfect reading, perfect song choice, perfect day for Nancy to show up. I mean, did anybody else notice that when Gloria came up here, all I was thinking was that Nancy Noel is the founder of Projects of Love. I almost said Points of Light, isn't that funny? POL is Projects of Love. Nancy headed that committee, came to me and said, you know, let's do something. And this was something that I really was excited to embrace and have moving in our community. And you did a really good job, Nancy, leaving a beautiful trail and attracting the perfect person to try and fill those shoes, because those shoes are not easily filled. We're so happy to see you today, Nancy. Welcome home. One of the great privileges of being a minister is that you get to teach the foundation class. And so one of my favorite things that happens every now and then is when you get some lively students, and I've got some lively students right now. I think we just finished class 5, I think, and we're on week 6. Does that sound about right? There's nothing more thrilling than witnessing people in that class just catch on fire with this excitement for what they know they are unlocking. Because all of us have equal access to that surge of living power. But when you find your way into that eternal current and you feel it and sense it and know this is your truth, that these are things that you can feel in you, inside of you at that level where it's fiery, that's exciting. That's because that's exactly what we're doing. I always call it the Holy Spirit, that I'm getting turned on by the Holy Spirit. That presence really is exciting. And that's what spiritual classwork can do for us. It's what this teaching really provides. Not so much that anybody tells you what to believe, but that we provide the tools that will help you unlock that same aliveness within you so that you can walk through your own days with your head held high in the glory of Spirit itself, knowing that that living power is what gives you all of your strength and inspiration and incentive for living the life that you're living. So the journey, because we're all individually very different from each other, the journey is highly personalized, and your idea of spiritual truth will be slightly different than my idea of spiritual truth. Your understanding of this ultimate reality will be different than anybody else's, and that's the way it should be. We should be personalizing this path and courting the divine in a relationship that is unique between ourself and Spirit. We have our own paces, but I think some of us move more quickly than others, and it's fun to watch students that are on fire move quickly because they're so excited they can't get enough. But the important thing is that all of us remember that we are moving, that the journey is ever evolving, that there is a progression in consciousness, not just in our own life, but a planetary experience of the consciousness of humanity. And so we keep doing that. We keep participating and doing our own work because we know then that we are helping to evolve the consciousness of humanity by doing good work in our own lives. This is possible because all of us have equal access to that same living power. The title of the message this morning comes from a quote from Dr. Ernest Holmes in his wonderful book, This Thing Called You. Listen to these fabulously uplifting words. You are surrounded by a dynamic force, a great surge of living power. Its presence permeates everything, binding all together life into one complete whole. You were reading that. It's slightly different verbiage, but you were reading the very same thought. And I noticed, I think it was even in your prayer, you kept using the term permeate. And I thought, well, not only did we dress alike today, but you got on the right wavelength in terms of the information I wanted to share this morning. So each of us is surrounded by this dynamic force. Isn't that a lovely way to think about it? We're surrounded by this dynamic force. We're permeated with this divinity, and it's binding all things in this glorious universe together to work for the whole. Now, I find that this is the best part about writing a message every Sunday, is that I get really involved in it, and it's uplifting, and it's liberating to remember these truths in such a potent way on a regular basis. The ideas are empowering to us because we are coming to understand some pretty basic things, like, for instance, we're not here living our days hoping to, have some time with our Maker after we die and hoping it turns out okay, right? It changes the meaning of our day-to-day living. And in fact, this spiritual truth certainly uplifts and refreshes me. But the gift of witnessing the beauty on this planet Earth is equally sustaining us if we take time to notice. Juliana posted a really gorgeous picture. I love Facebook when you capture that and you know this is shareable. And Juliana, it looked like you stood on your back porch and the sun sets there this time of year right back. It looks like it's the other side of your wall. And she wrote something in the caption like, it doesn't even do justice to try and describe how much richer the colors are and the vibrancy of really seeing what's there. But we see those things because we choose to look. And we choose to look with that deeper vision. So I get sad when people get so excited about the spiritual path that they minimize the value of the human journey, because gifts like that gorgeous sunset, this refreshing rain that we've had. Somebody up on Union Hills also posted a picture of hail that looked like snow. And there were piles of it. I didn't hear that some of us got hit with hail. But it looked like snow on her ground. And in the next morning, she took a picture that there was piles of it melting where it had piled up, almost like a snowstorm would in the way it drifts. So I keep this quote on my computer to remind me to appreciate this beautiful planet and this gorgeous universe that we live in, and the way that there's this perfect order. I keep this quote on my computer, and it's by Joseph Campbell, who said, "In loving the spiritual, you cannot despise the earthly." See, we need to love the earthly because it's a gift. And the more that we appreciate it, the deeper our understanding of spiritual ideas, the deeper it will grow, the greater we will commune with it, with the idea of oneness with God. And I think that's what Holmes meant when he said there's this great surge of living power that permeates everything and it binds us all together. If I look at even a photo of a beautiful sunset, I am now realizing my oneness with that beauty, that I cannot be separated from it, and that it's always present. So, what did Jesus mean? These are good things to ponder. What did Jesus mean when he said that heaven is within you now? You know, these are hints for me when I think of how much I love the beauty of the physical earth. Heaven is within you now. Holmes says a great living power is in you now. These are questions with great to ponder because they have great esoteric value. That means to say that there's an underlying meaning that's deeper than what you first perceive. There are subtle truths in life, and as we begin to embrace those subtle truths and to interpret them through our own eyes and our own experiences and apply them in our life, then we also see that oneness, that binding begins to enhance our individual well-being. So embodying such an understanding of life in the complexity, yet the wholeness of all of that, sets us free beyond anything we could possibly even imagine. Let's attempt to reason this out through a tiny peek of history. I thought I would talk for a little minute about Moses getting the Israelites out of Egypt. Moses and this great work he did in restoring the freedom of the Hebrew people. For 400 years they had been in bondage in Egypt. And historians, both biblical scholars and historians who speak about their opinion of the accuracy of history, do agree that there was an actual event that and a man named Moses that it can be traced into it too. Now, the other things we don't know. You know, did the Red Sea part? Is that a mythical story? like the flood and all those things. And the fact that every religion or religious traditions seem to have some similarity of stories in their own creation stories and how the earth came to be the way it is. But what we do know is that the biblical story says that after being freed, that the Hebrew people wandered for 40 years. And they were being led by Moses, and apparently Moses was soft-spoken or not as assertive as his brother Aaron. So these two brothers get together and they lead these people through some really challenging times, and they get into all sorts of mischief. And they believe they're the chosen people, and they're looking for the promised land. And I wonder if we don't relate sometimes to pieces of this story, the way we believe there's something divine about us and that there's some promise that we haven't quite lived in yet, and we're always looking for it. So all kinds of things go wrong on this 40-year trek. In fact, Moses and Aaron don't even get to arrive at the promised land. They die before the trek ends and the land is found or named. But if we look at this story through a more metaphorical meaning, if we look at the esoteric underlying meaning that happens in the story part of these legends that have been carried on and recorded, and we tell again and again. Some scholars have suggested, I love this when I stumble on these kinds of ideas. Some scholars suggest that the Hebrew people were not lost and wandering for 40 years as much as they were really trying to solve a puzzle. And the reason I find that intriguing is because I wonder if that isn't exactly what we are doing in our own lives. Sometimes we feel lost. Sometimes the journey seems really rugged and confusing. And yet, all along the way, there are still gorgeous sunsets. There are still reasons and opportunities that we can bump into the divine in such a way that we move and awaken to a higher state, a higher way of thinking. So if I look at, again, now we go Jesus. Now, I mean, most people don't think about this, but I guess, I don't know, maybe everybody thinks about this and I just discovered it. There's about 1,400 years between Moses and Jesus. That's a long time. So even to think of the Hebrew people in bondage for 400 years, I stop and think about how many generations of people lived and died and never had a life liberated from that type of bondage. But now we go from Moses to Jesus, and I want you to begin to think of how the consciousness of humanity changes. So when Moses is leading the Hebrew people early in the early Bible stories, what we see is there were a lot of laws. There were a lot of laws, and Moses tried to hold the people to the laws. And so it was a very legalistic spirituality. 1,400 approximately, we don't know exact, but approximately that many centuries later, Jesus comes and puts a different perspective on it. Now, imagine how much change has happened in the consciousness of humanity between those two strong figures that we see as spiritual leaders. Jesus comes and suggests that that there's a way. We've been trying to understand life by looking at everything in material, physical form. And Jesus says, but look beyond the appearances. Look for the deeper. What else is going on here? What are the pieces of the puzzle that we can take now and use in trying to understand our own journey, in recognizing our own progression of and deepening of our understanding? So Jesus comes and says, we need a higher reality. We need to learn to, we can shift our perspective and see life from a higher view. So Moses brought the people freedom through the law, but Jesus then shifts the focus from the legalistic obedience into the idea of love and forgiveness and acceptance and being kind with each other. Each othering. I saw someone write it in that way. There are all these scriptures in the gospel accounts about each othering. But here's what I see in that. Moses' law, Jesus' love. We still, to this day, in this teaching, we talk about love and law and how we need them most. That was a most curious reading. You have to share that with me again, because I like how he very pointedly said, the law is not God. Right? It's such a good reminder that the law is an aspect of God, but it's not the whole package. And we get confused when we think we're only dealing with law here. We're dealing with love and law in a whole package, a triune nature of God, not an either or. And they have to work together. So I want to read that better. Make a copy of it for me before you go. So the reason we see change and the reason people followed Jesus was because it was an opportune time for a shift in the consciousness of humanity to start focusing less on law and more on love and figure out how we could have better people skills. To put it in perspective of how consciousness changes, the consciousness of humanity. By the way, Holmes would call that race consciousness, but my husband always said racial consciousness, and I would go, no, honey, it has nothing to do with that. It's the human race. So think of it like Carl Jung talking about the collective unconscious. That's all, everybody's thoughts all jumbled up together, and we're always bumping into each other's ideas. But Holmes had this lovely way that I read every so often. Here and there you see different iterations of it. But he would say something like, when Moses was leading the people through the desert, the physical, natural laws of science were in place for them to discover how to use electricity, which was funny because you said electricity, something about electricity. It's not God, but you can figure out how to, everything was in place that they could have used electricity at that time, but they didn't have the consciousness of the scientific principles in place. In another place, he talks about the airplanes. You know, we always could have gotten an airplane in the air, but we didn't have this science, the understanding of this science behind it. So that defines how human consciousness is changing. So I'm getting ready to cue you, Kendra, but not quite. So we are putting the pieces together. And as we remember that we are surrounded by this divine force, remember the force of love is the greatest force in the universe, and that force of love permeates absolutely everything, binding it all together and making it into a great whole so that consciousness can continue to evolve or progress. We can get, look at what we know about technology that 30 years ago didn't even exist. And that's a short time. That's not 400 or 1400 time period. So I found this video, and this video will just demonstrate the shift in our consciousness from the late 1940s, early 1950s until now.
What cigarette do you smoke? You'll be interested to know how the doctors of America answered that question. What cigarette do you smoke? You'll be interested to know how the doctors of America answered that question. Tens of thousands of doctors, Doctors in all parts of the country, in every state of the Union. Doctors in every branch of medicine were asked,
What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?
in this nationwide survey of general practitioners, surgeons, throat specialists, diagnosticians, and so on, the brand named most was Camel.
Yes, according to this survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Try Camels yourself. Make the one sensible cigarette test. Make your own 30-day Camel mildness test in your T-zone. Smoke only Camels for 30 days. Enjoy Camel's rich, full flavor. And see how well Camels agree with your throat. Pack after pack, week after week. See for yourself why Camels are so popular with the doctors of America.
I know, sometimes it's just too fun. Oh my goodness. We could really play this game a long time and find a lot more fun videos that would support this idea that the consciousness of humanity changes. We just are always growing, and I'm grateful that we no longer throw our trash out our car window when we're driving down the street. I'm grateful that we have advanced in, I love to recycle. It just makes my heart happy. And the longer I recycle, the smarter I get at how I do it. And there are just so many ways that we wake up and do a little bit more than what we were doing in the past. One of my favorite stories is Morro Bay on the central coast of California. As many of you know, we've had a love affair with that part of the California coast for most of my life. And Morro Rock at one time was being dynamited in order to make smaller boulders that they could take out to make the jetty that's there and now protects the bay. But they were dynamiting that beautiful giant rock that's out right on the shoreline in the ocean at high tide. It's in the water. And one day, a worker was having his lunch, enjoying the beautiful scenery. It is a gorgeous region with lots of wildlife. And it occurred to him that if they continued to blow up that rock, that one day it wouldn't be there anymore. And he started spreading the word. He just started speaking from his heart. And they woke up and they saved the rock. And now, if you're coming across the mountain from the 5 or the 99, I forget which one goes, the 5 or the 99, and you're coming across Highway 46 when you get to the peak of that mountain on a clear day when you can see the ocean, that rock is distinguished. It's beautiful to see, and I'm glad it's there. Reverend Clyde and Mark just took a vacation there, last big vacation. That's why we all got mala beads, isn't it? Weren't you making mala beads on that trip? When we learn and expand and tap into that internal vision, that shift in our perspective, and we start using that surge of power, the living power within us, things shift and change. What excites me about the shifting of consciousness right now is all the research we have on the brain studies. And I wonder, in another 50 years, when we look back on this time period, what will that be like to know that this was the time we were talking about how our beliefs, our brain is looking at our beliefs first. So, we'll see what happens. But when we go back to look at the biblical history, I was thinking how incredible it was, and we should not take this for granted, that this man named Jesus comes to the planet in flesh and takes an interest in these spiritual ideas, and he figures out a language. It wasn't even his first language when he was doing all that ministry work. And he's talking to people and demonstrating by the way that he's living his life that the shift in our perspective is what empowers us. And so we see that this is an evolved human who was able to think out of the box to inspire people. He gathered followers, and he preached that change was possible. And so what we see in a figure like many of the great spiritual leaders that are recorded historically, and stories have been passed on for generations, we see there's a way they mentally transcend or go above or beyond what would be the average way of thinking. Dr. Holmes told us that when we pray and meditate in the morning, we rise then above 51% of the average consciousness, and therefore we have an easier movement throughout our day and throughout life. So these are some great lessons for us. Jesus had this way of stretching people's imagination. And so I take all those different time periods and I look at them, and I think that if it feels like we're wandering a little bit as a group of humanity as a whole, if it feels like we're lost or we're wandering, what if we're not lost, but we're gathering pieces of the puzzle? See, the message that accepting God's love as that powerful force in our life is a message that is important for and universal for all of us. It benefits every living being, not just humanity. I just put these 3 quotes together very quickly. I found a quote from Vivekananda, who was a great spiritual leader from India in 1893. Imagine taking a boat across the ocean. In 1893, he went to Chicago, Illinois, to speak at the very first World Parliament of Religions. You know what I just learned? I didn't know this before I was doing this research, but the very first World Parliament of Religions, by the way, Emma Curtis Hopkins was there. She went on to teach Fillmore and Holmes and Divine Science and all those others. At that first World Parliament of Religions conference, it was held in what is now the Chicago Art Institute. Wow, that excites me because I've been there. Right, that's a really cool art museum if you like art museums. But he came in 1893, and in his speech, he said these words. See how much they match what we're saying today. We are beyond the sun, the stars, and the universe. We forge the chain. We forge the chain. We bring heaven and earth together. Our humanity is the place that heaven and earth intersect. Gandhi, years later, said, when that force awakens within us, it becomes irresistible and it conquers the world. Did he not live a life that proved that? Doing Seeds of Peace right now. We already talked about Gandhi. You know, he brought great change to India. He's attributed as the person that freed them of British rule. And he did it all in the essence of knowing it could be done non-violently, and that was the example he brought. Then I found this quote from somebody I'm not that familiar with. I've heard of him before, Orison Swett Marden, who would have been a contemporary with Holmes and Fillmore and all those other metaphysicians that were doing big work in the 40s and the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Orison Swett Marden said, such a good quote, deep within us dwells slumbering powers that we have never dreamed of possessing, forces that would revolutionize our lives if aroused. So feel that force of life, the living spirit within you. Feel it, acknowledge it. It's a force that is greater than we have ever imagined. And when we open ourselves to that surge of power, we let God use us. We become a vessel. We become an instrument of love or of peace, of joy, of beauty. And we let God express through us. So when we are doing that, we can stand firm and know that there is a power in this universe. It is a power for good. Light is always stronger than dark. What happens when you turn on the light, the dark disappears. So there is a power that is beyond any disparity or any the polarities of opinion that are so seemingly loud right now. There's a power greater than that. There's a power beyond any bad news we might hear or worry about. There is a power beyond every conspiracy theory, and there is a power, in fact, that will carry us through another election year, I promise. We got this. We can do this. We are surrounded by a dynamic force that permeates absolutely everything, and it binds us together in a good way, in a resourceful way, with the intention of keeping order in this universe. It has nothing to do with our little minor desires or needs. When we recognize that power, everything seems to move in a more orderly fashion. And I know it's hard to recognize that on a consistent basis, but when we feel lost, if the world seems to frighten you for a minute, think of all those people who have lived through things like this and greater, and that there were always those who rose as leaders with good intentions. So maybe we're not lost. Maybe the predicaments we experience or the things we witness are just a part of helping us come to a clearer understanding, to become more determined that we can rely on this force of love. Always clues everywhere to this greater reality. And we are just collecting the pieces and finding our way. It's a lot to think about, but we can think about it. And that's what I wanted to say today. So just begin to gather the little pieces, the gems that have been falling about this room today. And begin to feel your safe and secure place, the way that the universe supports us so perfectly, right where we are, here in this luscious sanctuary. We're sitting in the comfort of our own space at home, listening. God, right where we are, never absent, never missing, never limited, Spirit itself as this great living force in the universe. I feel the love of God within me, and I recognize this to be the goodness of all of life, the activity of Spirit within us, around us, above us and below us. That presence of love. We feel and sense there's a quickening within us that reminds us of that surge of living power that desires expression on this planet, and it can only be here through us. So we open ourselves this day. We open our hearts and our minds so that Spirit can flow through us, can permeate us in such a way that we recognize that presence of grace in our own being. I feel the love of God, and I know it is that same eternal truth that abides at the center of every living being. every blade of grass, every bird that flies, the lizards that climb the side of the wall. I know that this prolific nature of life itself reminds us again and again that yes, there is beauty. Yes, there is truth. Yes, there is a greater reality revealing itself to us. And our job is simply to collect the little pieces, to take time to notice the glory, the fullness of some infinite intelligence that is always sourcing us, fueling us, providing for us exactly that which we need in any given moment. So in this day, as we are renewed and inspired yet again, we open ourselves to that crystal clear awareness of the activity of God within our own self. We align in such a way that we are moving in sync with this force for good, that we are flowing in this eternal current, that we are blessed by a practice-based faith that gives us all the tools we need to return to love again and again. And in this way, we are lifted. We see that our vision is restored so that we can see the deeper, richer, divine truths. And therefore, we become effective vessels. God streaming that grace, that love, that beauty, permeating us, filling us, fueling us, so that we are ready to meet this week. So whatever might feel like it's blocking the movement of God's love in our life, we know it is just obliterated now in the presence of truth. So we are healed, we are restored to our wholeness, and we are grateful. So we say yes to life. We give thanks to that divine law that works without caring what it is. We desire that law works for the order in the universe. So I say thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, infinite spirit, for this and for so much more. And I just release these words into the divine law, knowing it is already done. And so it is.
Grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look and every face I see is love reflected, shining back to me. I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and peace that gratitude brings. That's why I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have.
All right. Thank you, Bradford. And yes, we are grateful. I just want to remind you guys that we have Dining with the Dudes today, and we are doing a Irish potluck dinner extravaganza. And I think Julie made Guinness cupcakes. Interesting. All right, so now's the time to celebrate the abundance of our lives and the abundance of our community. So we'll remind everybody that we don't pass around the offering plate. We have drop boxes in the back of the room and all the way also into the fellowship hall and in the bookstore. So we appreciate all your tithes, your donations, and everything that supports this community. So let's say our giving affirmation together. I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, and so it is.
Please rise for our last song. thinking about my problems. I'm living now. I'm living now. And I ain't gonna worry about the future. I'm living now. I'm living now. So put your hands up if you feel like having a good time. Put your hands up if you're sharing love with all. Raise your cup if you're hopeful for tomorrow. Put your hands up if you're ready to have some fun. And sing it with me. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. One more time. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Woo!
Yes, it does. So let's say our closing affirmation together. Just repeat after me. I appreciate the beauty in my life. And I know I am the beauty in life. And so it is.